In our last session, we read a letter from a woman who had been sexually abused as a child by her grandfather, now dead, and her neighbor. She said she couldn't live without talking about it anymore, but she also knew that talking about it would be very destructive to her family and to her neighbor. I commended her for finally talking about it and suggested that we focus on the healing rather than the wounds. I also suggested that her questions about why this happened to her would be answered as we understood the need we all have for real love and how, in its absence, we search for imitation love. Now, back to the writer of the letter. You still see your grandfather and your neighbor from a child's point of view. You see them as emotionally mature adults who maliciously injured you. Now, to be sure, they did injure you, but everything changes when you realize that they were not emotionally mature adults. They were emotionally drowning. They didn't have enough real love in their lives. They were empty and afraid. And in their pain, they did what we all do. They reached out to fill their emptiness and dull their pain. Some of us drink alcohol. Some of us use drugs. I was a drug addict for years. Some of us become addicted to the praise and power we get from our careers. Society actually praises us for that, even though we often destroy our families in the process. When somebody is literally drowning in the water, they're not fussy about what they grab hold of to keep their heads above water. They'll use anything. And when they get desperate enough, they'll even pull other people under the water. We behave the same way when we're drowning emotionally. We'll grab hold of anything that will temporarily enable us to breathe. And in the case of these two men, that was you. That doesn't make it right. I'm not excusing them in any way. I am, however, explaining it so that you'll understand, finally, why they did what they did. Drowning people become literally quite insane in their desperation. They don't think of the consequences of what they do. I have seen people in the process of drowning, like literally drowning in water. Drowning people don't ever stop and think, I wonder if the children in the Sudan are getting enough to eat this year. No, they think only of themselves. It was the same with these two men. They were so empty and afraid that they were willing to use you to make themselves feel better. They were so empty and afraid that they couldn't even get a feeling of acceptance or power from another adult. They had to get those feelings from a child. Do you see how sad and pathetic they were? Again, I'm not excusing them. I am trying to help you see them in an entirely different way. If you can, you will feel entirely differently toward them. And we'll talk more about this in our next session.